Hello and welcome to A Day in 15 Minutes by Neo IAS. Now the topics for the day are Log X, National Diabetes and Diabetic Retinopathy Survey Report of 2015 to 19, Fluorescence and Phosphorescence, Sister City, Medicine Nobel, India-Bangladesh Maiden Bilateral Naval Exercise, Typbar Typhoid Conjugate Vaccine, and finally exercise Dharma Guardian. Now coming to our first topic, which is Log X. Now this is in news because DP World has launched a tech accelerator for logistics. Now here DP World is actually a very big logistic company. Okay, so now talking about Log X, DP World has launched this National Technology Accelerator platform for logistics in partnership with Invest India, Kerala Startup Mission and Startup Resort. Now, this is to encourage innovation and technology adoption in the Indian logistics sector, and the program is curated for entrepreneurs in logistics and other associated sectors. Now, the goal is to catalyze the Indian entrepreneurs and the startup community to develop smart trade solutions by leveraging massive opportunities offered by the digital technology. Now, this program will be focusing on digital technologies like blockchain, artificial intelligence, robotics, simulators, Internet of Things, and other newly developing areas as such. Now, this will seek to identify logistics-focused technology startups through the Startup India portal and will look to onboard up to 10 selected startups for conducting pilot projects. Now, the finalized startups will be mentored by the DP World leadership team and external members on board of the program. Okay, coming to the next topic, which is National Diabetes and Diabetic Retinopathy Survey Report from 2015 to 19. Now, this is in news because according to this report, nearly 12% of Indians above the age of 50 have diabetes. Now, this report has been conducted during the period of 2015 to 19 by the Rajendra Prasad Center for Ophthalmic Sciences and All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and this report was recently released by the Health Ministry of India. Now, the key findings under this report, the thing is that prevalence of diabetes in India has been recorded at 11.8% in the last 4 years. And the prevalence of non-diabetic cases was 8% and the new cases were that of 3.8%. That's how we come to 11.8%. Now, the prevalence is more among males, which is around 12%, whereas females has 11.7%. Don't think it is a big margin. It's very, very close. Now, the highest prevalence of diabetes, that is 13.2%, was observed in the age group of 70 to 79 years of age. Now, the prevalence of any form of diabetic retinopathy is in the diabetic population of the age group above 50 years, and this percentage has been found to be about 16.9% of the population. According to the World Health Organization, now there are estimated that there are 72.96 million cases of diabetes in adult population of India, and the prevalence in urban areas ranges between 10.9% to 14.2%, and that in rural India is that of 3 to 7.8%. So it is much more diabetic population is present much more in urban areas than in rural areas. Okay. Now globally the prevalence of diabetic among adults is over 18 years of age is estimated to be around 8.5% in 2014. Coming to the little bit of background about this, now diabetes and diabetic retinopathy have been emerging as a significant non-communicable disease leading to ocular morbidity. It is also causing a lot of blindness basically. Now it is estimated that diabetic retinopathy was responsible for 1.06 blindness and 1.16% of visual impairment globally in 2015. Coming to diabetic retinopathy, it is basically a diabetic eye disease. Now it affects 80% of those who has diabetes, and this diabetic retinopathy is a condition in which there is damage to the retina due to diabetic mellitus. Now, the longer a person suffers from diabetes, the higher chances are there for the person to develop diabetic retinopathy. Coming to the next topic, which is fluorescence and phosphorescence. Now, this is in news because NPL, that is National Physical Laboratory, has synthesized a novel security ink. Now, basically the researchers from NPL have synthesized this new security ink that emits intense red color when the ink is exposed to 254 nanometer wavelength of UV radiation, and as soon as this radiation is switched off, the ink emits back green color. Okay, so this is the speciality about this ink. Now the emission of red color is due to fluorescence, while the emission of green color is due to phosphorescence. These are two separate phenomena. Both red and green can be clearly seen by the naked eye under ambient conditions. So you don't need any special microscopes or any other sort in this scenario. Now this is the first report of an ink that contains two pigments that emit different colors at very different wavelengths when exposed to UV light of a particular wavelength. Okay, now the red and green pigments are synthesized separately and mixed in a 3:1 ratio and then heated over 400 degrees Celsius for 3 hours. Now the ink can be used to develop security codes to stop the production of fake currencies, illegal drugs and fraudulent copying of vital documents. Now coming to the phenomenon of fluorescence. Now fluorescence is the emission of light by a substance that has absorbed light or any other electromagnetic radiation. It is in the form of a luminescence. Basically, it is the energy released when a sort of light is shined upon the substance. Now, in most cases, the emitted light has a longer wavelength and therefore has a lower energy than the absorbed radiation. Okay. Now, fluorescence has many practical applications including mineralogy, germology, medicines, chemical sensors, fluorescent labeling, etc. So, there are many uses for fluorescence, the phenomenon of fluorescence. Now, coming to the topic of phosphorescence. Now, phosphorescence is a type of photoluminescence related to fluorescence. Okay. Now, photoluminescence is basically light emission from any form of a matter after absorption of photons or electromagnetic radiation. Now, in fluorescence, I told you it is light emitted when the electromagnetic radiation is absorbed by the body. Now, unlike fluorescence, a phosphorescent material does not immediately re-emit the radiation. Okay, it takes some time, stores it with itself, and then slowly only emits the radiation. Now, the slower time scale of the re-emission are associated with forbidden energy states transition in the quantum mechanical fields of that material. Now, as these transitions occur very slowly in certain materials, absorbed radiations is re-emitted very slowly and that can last for several hours also. So, that is a specialty in case of phosphorescence. Now, examples of phosphorescent materials are glow-in-the-dark toys, stickers, paints, some sort of wrist watches, things like that. Okay. Now, coming to the National Physical Laboratory, it is part of the CSIR, that is Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. It is the measurement standard of laboratory in India and it maintains standards of SI units in India. So, this is a very important point here. Actually, NPL is the institution that is holding the standards for SI units in India, and it also calibrates the national standards and weights and measures. It is the only agency in India authorized to maintain the Indian Standard Time, IST. Keep that in mind also, it's a very important point. And it hosts most accurate clocks in the country with the accuracy of plus or minus 20 nanoseconds through the primary time scale. Okay. Now coming to the next topic, which is sister city. Now this is in news because India and China decided to establish sister state relations between Tamil Nadu and Fujian province in China. Talking a bit more about this, now it aims to explore the possibility of establishing an academy to study links between Mahabalipuram and Fujian province on the lines of the experience between Ajanta and Dohang kingdoms at that point of time. Now, it also plans to conduct research on maritime links between China and India in the view of our extensive contracts over the centuries. Coming to the concept of sister city. Now, the concept of sister city or twin cities is that of a legal and social agreement between towns, cities, countries, or any other states. Now, it is between two separate countries to promote cultural and commercial ties. Now, the plan was conceived after the end of the World War II to promote peaceful coexistence and to encourage trade and tourism. Now, in diplomacy, this concept is seen in a way to enhance strategic ties between two nations, both cultural as well as economic. Now, as far as India is concerned, India has signed sister city agreements with China, Australia, United States, South Korea, Russia, Canada, Germany, Belarus, Mauritius, Hungary, Jordan, Bangladesh, Lithuania and Portugal. So keep these countries in mind. Then if a question is asked, you can easily pick out which countries has signed a sister city contract with India and which has not. Coming to the next topic, which is Medicine Nobel. Now this is in news because this year the Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine was awarded to three scientists, naming William G. Callahan Jr., Sir Peter J. Ratcliffe and Greg L. Semenza. These are the three scientists, and they were given this award for their discovery on how cells sense and adapt to oxygen availability. Now the three scientists have uncovered the genetic mechanism that allows cells to respond to varying levels of oxygen. Now coming to the question of why this is important. Now oxygen is used by all the cells to convert food to useful energy. While oxygen is essential for survival of cells, excess or too little of oxygen can lead to adverse health consequences. So that means oxygen should be present in a balanced state or balanced amount. Now proper growth of the fetus and the placenta depends upon the availability of cells to sense oxygen. Now drugs have already been developed to treat anemia by making the body produce increased number of red blood cells. Anemia, is the disease wherein the blood cells is not able to take in too much of the oxygen and transport it to different parts of the body. Now similarly, drugs to increase oxygen availability in people with heart disease and lung cancer are also being tested. Now coming to the area of how much we know about this oxygen and the blood cells related to our body, we'll talk about that. Now the rate at which we respire depends upon the amount of oxygen being carried into the blood. Specialized cells present next to large blood vessels in the neck sense the blood oxygen level and alert the brain to increase the rate of respiration when the oxygen level in the blood goes down. Now this discovery won a Nobel Prize in 1938. At the beginning of the last century, scientists knew that specialized cells present in the kidney make and release a hormone called erythropoietin. When oxygen level is low, it is in high altitudes, basically oxygen levels are low in high altitudes, then more of this hormone is produced and released, leading to increased production of red blood cells in the bone marrow. Now, coming to why the scientists were given, what were the contributions of the scientists because they were given the Nobel Prize. Now, Professor Semenza and Sir Ratcliffe independently studied how erythropoietin gene is regulated by varying oxygen levels. Now, both researchers found that oxygen sensing mechanism is not only restricted to the kidneys where erythropoietin is produced, but it is also found in different cells and tissues other than that of the kidney. Now, Professor Semenza identified a pair of genes that expresses two proteins. When the oxygen level is low, one of the protein, that is HIF1 alpha, turns on certain genes, including the erythropoietin gene. This is to increase the production of erythropoietin in the body. Now, Professor Callahan Jr., who was studying an inherited syndrome called von Hippel-Lindau's disease or VHL disease, found that people had increased risk of cancer when they inherited VHL mutations. He found that VHL gene seemed to be involved in how cells respond to oxygen. Now, VHL interacts with the HIF1 alpha protein and degrades it when the oxygen level is normal. Now, this ensures that excess red blood cells are not produced when the oxygen level is normal. Coming to why do athletes use erythropoietin and what are the risks associated with it? Now, athletes have been found to use erythropoietin, synthetic oxygen carriers and blood transfusions for blood doping. Now, each of the three substances or methods is banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency. Now, while the use of erythropoietin in people who are anemic due to chronic kidney disease helps in increasing the oxygen level in the blood. Now, the use of this hormone by normal healthy people can lead to serious risks. Now, understand it is not only, always going to help people. If too much of erythropoietin is used, it's also going to be harmful for the people. Coming to the next topic, which is India-Bangladesh maiden bilateral naval exercise. Now, the maiden edition of the India-Bangladesh bilateral exercise will be held after the second edition of Indian Navy and Bangladesh Navy's coordinated patrol, that is CORPAT. Now, the first edition of CORPAT was commenced in 2018. Now, the objective of this exercise is to develop mutual communication and sharing best practices between the two navies. Coming to the next topic, which is Typbar Typhoid Conjugate Vaccine, that is TVC vaccine. Now, it is a typhoid vaccine developed by Hyderabad-based Bharat Biotech. Now, WHO has given its approval for global use of this vaccine. Now, Typbar or TVC is one of the world's First typhoid vaccine clinically proven to be administered to children from 6 months of age to adults and confers long-term protection against typhoid fever. Coming to the final topic of the day, which is exercise Dharma Guardian. It is a joint military exercise, that is Dharma Guardian, and it's an annual training event between India and Japan, which is being conducted in India since 2018. Now, the scope of this exercise covers platoon level joint training on counter-terrorism operations in jungle and urban scenario. That's all for the day. I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you.
So please like, share and subscribe to our channel for more videos. Follow our website neoiasgap.com for the detailed content and monthly prelims digest. Also join our current affairs exclusive test series through the website. And finally, participate in the daily current affairs prelims infotainment quiz at our Telegram channel, that is Neo IAS Prelims, at 9:30 p.m.